Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Firstly, apologies, our upload schedule has slightly changed this week. We should have updated or uploaded, should I say, a video 2 days ago, but unfortunately due to technical issues, it didn't happen. So obviously we've had a bit of a gap in between the last video, but anyway, here we are back again now, and hopefully after this video we'll continue our usual upload routine. So the topic of today's video is we're looking at protecting your worksheet. So we're going to look at how you can use password protection on your worksheets and then the various types of protection you have within your sheet protection. So let's just jump straight into our example that we have here. So we've got an example where we've got 3 columns in our table, and we can see we've got number 1, number 2 and our result. And what we want to do is use some protection on our sheet so that the formula that you can see here in column D is so people can't change or amend that as well. So we want them to be able to play around and enter numbers here into the white columns, or columns B and C to be more specific. And then in the yellow column, in column D, we want it to return the result, but we don't want the user to be able to amend or mess up that formula what's in there already. So in order to do this, we're going to be using sheet protection. So sheet protection is located by the review tab that's located in the ribbon at the top of the screen, and you can see that we have this option here of protect sheet. When you go to protect sheet, you are given a number of options available in here. So you have everything from select lock cells, select unlock cells, format cells, so on and so forth. And I don't think I can actually expand it, but if I scroll down here, you can see all the different options here. And what these are is these are all different options that you can use when you're protecting sheets. So if we were to put a password in here, and actually you don't need to put a password, but obviously good protection comes with having a password there so someone can't just easily remove that protection. These tick boxes allow you to identify what is going to happen as a result of the protection. So as you can see here, allow all users of this workbook to do the following. So by ticking it, you're allowing them to do something. So if you put a password on to protect the sheet and you haven't ticked one of these boxes, the individual will not be able to do it. Such as at the moment, once the protection is applied, all they're going to be able to do is select cells that are locked, what we'll get onto in a minute, and also select cells that are unlocked. Anything else in terms of formatting, inserting rows, inserting columns, so on and so forth, or even deleting columns or rows, is they're not going to have the ability to do that. So in some specs, even just using the aspect of and disabling people the ability to delete columns and delete rows is of great benefit in itself, really. So that's what we're going to be using, but before we get to that, we'll talk more about the whole locked cells aspect before we go into do the protection. So let's go cancel. So what we're going to do is we'll highlight our number of cells here in column D because these are the first ones that we want, or these are the ones we want to apply the protection for. So again, it's worth noting, again, with adding protection to your sheet, you can select a single range or obviously a couple of ranges within the sheet and apply the protection to those cells. Generally, when you're doing protection, what we need to do is go into this process we'll now follow. So you need to select the range, right click, and go into our format cells option. And then the tab we're interested in is protection tab, so all the way over to the end here. So what we have here is we've got 2 options. So we've got locked and hidden. So the default will be to have just the locked box ticked. So obviously by locking a cell, it means that when protection is applied, the cell is locked, so the user will not be able to do anything with that cell. And it might be worth just going for an example first. So let's say using as default, so all cells have that locked feature ticked. If I was to protect, and we'll put a simple password in here, as in PASS, and go OK, and we've got to re-enter our password again, and go OK. You can see that protection is now on because obviously the option here is unprotect. If we now go to one of our cells, you can see we can navigate across the sheet, we can click anywhere we wish, but if we were to double click into a cell, we're going to receive this error message that the cell or chart you're trying to change is in a protected sheet. You need to obviously unprotect the sheet if you want to make a change. So you can't click in there, you can't type in there, it's not going to let you do anything across the sheet. So And that's great for our purpose in that the individual can't actually do anything in this sheet. But we want them to be able to update everything in these columns here, so columns B and C. So what we need to do is unprotect our sheet, enter our password, and then protection is now off. So what we can do is actually select the range that we want them to be able to update. Right click, go into format cells, and this time we can untick the locked box. So this means that protection will not get applied to these cells. We'll go OK, and now let's just protect sheet again, re-entering our password twice, and you can see nothing looks like it's changed, but we can see that protection is on because the next option is to unprotect the sheet. So this time if we go over to our result in column D and click again, we can see the formula in there, but we can't change it or do anything, it's just there. This time, but if we come over to columns B or C, we can see that we can actually edit these. So if we were to change that 15 to number 1, you can see it will update in column B, likewise in column C. If I put a 5 rather than the value we have in there, that will update, and our formula will still continue to update, we're just unable to update or do anything with it. So that's pretty much the basics of how to protect your sheet. Fundamentally, it just comes down to using the format cells option, go into your protection tab, and then obviously unticking the lock function if you want them to be able to update it, or ticking it if you don't want them to be able to update it. And if you go into unprotect one more time, go back in, and then obviously you've got all these different options that you can play with as well. So by default, the select locked and unlocked cells will be ticked, and what that basically means is, as you would have noticed with column D, it was with column D, it was a locked cell. So because we've got this ticked, we're able to select that cell. So if we didn't want them to actually be able to select the cell at all, then obviously you could untick that, and they would not be able to select anything within that range of column D, obviously having selected that and to done it. And likewise with select unlock cells, obviously we're enabling by default to add the select cells that aren't locked. But obviously you could untick those or change this in any way dependent on the criteria you have for your protection. The one last thing I wanted to touch on, if we come out of this, is with our result, okay, we know that protection is off at the moment. We know that if we add protection, it's going to protect column D, so they won't be able to change the formula, but they'll be able to see the formula in there. What we can actually do is if we highlight this range once again, and we'll go right click, and then once we get into format cells, we shall go to the protection tab, and this time we have obviously the option here of hidden what we previously stepped over. So if we now tick this box and go OK, so it's now locked and we've got the hidden option selected, and go OK. We'll protect our sheet, so we'll enter our same password in. So this time, if we want them to change, we can allow them to change the number. So in row 5, rather than 10, we'll put a 5 in here. And then in number 2, let's put a 2, something really simple. So you can see that they've been able to update them as desired, and that you can still see the result in column D. But this time, because we've selected hidden, if we select one of our cells within that range, we can't now see the formula. So the formula bar will be blank to the user. It will still do the calculation as required again, so if we added a 5 in here, you can see it'll update, and they're obviously still unable to edit that cell. But there's one additional thing where they can't actually see the formula behind it. So again, this is really useful as well, is if your formula maybe is going to reference another sheet that you don't want them to see, or if you are applying maybe a number or an uplift in your formula if it's a bit more complex, and again you don't want them to see what that number is. This is another great way of doing it, by hiding as well as locking that cell. So we hope you found that very useful. It's certainly a really great function to use in Excel, especially if you're sharing your workbook with other users and requiring other people to populate the information. One, for obviously sensitivity and security to make sure nothing gets changed, and also it's just really beneficial to make sure that when you're sharing a workbook, people are unable to play with the formatting of that workbook by removing or adding columns, because it is a great pain when you're trying to maybe consolidate a number of different sheets together at the end of the day and someone's added or changed the format and the layout of that sheet. So some great topics to use there, and hope you find that very useful. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification button so you are notified as soon as our new videos do come out onto YouTube. We've got some links in the description of this video to our Instagram and our Facebook, so if you haven't already, again, check those out. And lastly, you can either reach out to us by social media, or if you do have a question, you can just drop us a comment below this video and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.